Welcome to Red Ice Creations Radio. My name is Henrik Palmgren and we are recording from the west coast of Sweden. We have a new show available every Sunday and Thursday at redicecreations.com. I hope you visit us often as our news is updated on a daily basis. Today we are going to dive into Stanley Kubrick's movie Eyes Wide Shut together with researcher Kent Daniel Bentkowski. So stay tuned for that, good stuff coming right up. Last week we had Mitch Batras with us talking about the Sun-Earth connection and also about the Maya. So a big thanks to Mitch for that. If you missed any of our previous shows, just access our archive and we got all of our shows there available for you. Now let's dive into Kubrick and his Eyes Wide Shut. Today we are joined by Kent Daniel Bentkowski. He has been studying occult symbolism of the global elite for about 27 years. He's been on Greg Szymanski's investigative journal radio show. He has also been on the Freeman Perspective. Freeman, a good friend who's been on this show about 3 times. And Kent has articles published on Renz.com, and he also, of course, got his own website, which is controversypapers.net. And if you want to follow along during our talk here today, just go over to controversypapers.net. So let's say hello to our guest and say welcome to the show, Kent, and thank you for spending some time with us here today.
Well, thank you very much for having me today. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to speak to a new audience.
Excellent. It's great to have you here, and to begin and kick things off. How did you get the name Controversy?
Well, that has an interesting history to it. My best friend Robert and myself have oftentimes political-based conversations, which are of a controversial nature. And one day we were talking about the usual politics, and he had said to me, "Oh, you're just trying to start a controversy." And I said, "Bob, could you repeat that, please?" And he says, "Yes, you're trying to start a controversy." And he said it with a smile on his face, and I immediately recognized that that was the most perfect way to describe me as a journalist and also the subjects that I cover in my investigative reporting.
Very interesting. And your website, of course, is controversypapers.net. So what are the controversy papers?
Well, the Controversy Papers are a series of observations on my part. I do something that I refer to research journalism. Typically, a journalist reports the daily news, things that are going to happen tomorrow, perhaps things that happened today, and things that happened yesterday. I like to pick subject matters that are timely and timeless in their nature, and in terms of what we're going to talk about today, this movie, Eyes Wide Shut, when I sat down and actually watched it with a series of my friends and family on a movie night a couple years ago, they were devastated by what they were looking at in the movie, and they didn't understand it. So what I wanted to do is explain in the report that I had written, Eyes Wide Shut, Occult Symbolism, what that movie was all about, and what specifically the symbolism was trying to tell the viewers.
Yeah, and of course I myself published this link to your site, Kent, a while back, and so I suspect many of my listeners who follow the website and this radio show are familiar with the article at this point. But it's going to be very interesting to dive into this. But before we do that, what has been your most widely read report? Do you know that?
Yeah, I watch on a daily basis the hits that come into my website, and specifically what they are looking at when they visit my website. And pretty much what I discovered was far and away the most popular report that I have written on that website of the approximately 400 controversy papers that I've published on controversypapers.net is this Eyes Wide Shut report. Mm-hmm. This took me by surprise because it was not a very high priority for me to write about this. It was in an effort to explain to some of my close family members and friends what this movie was all about.
Yeah.
And I didn't really understand when I first put this report online on March 19th, 2006, what type of impact it would have on my readers. I get between 25 and 100 hits per day, and it varies from day to day, just on this one report.
Interesting. Yes, it's very timely to dive into this, I'd say. But do you have any other reports on the symbolism found in Hollywood films?
Well, what I'm planning on doing, based on the popularity of the Eyes Wide Shut report, is I'm going to be, in the future, talking about the movie They Live by John Carpenter, and that will specifically touch on political allegory and commentary. Stanley Kubrick's 1968 film, which is a masterpiece, 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
And that's going to talk about the esoteric symbolism in that film. And I am also going to be dealing with The Exorcist, Clerks and Clerks 2, which are going to talk about the underbelly of American economy, and George Romero's Living Dead quartet of films.
Excellent. So you got a lot of good things up ahead for people who are interested in this. So we should follow along with controversypapers.net, I guess. And, to kind of dive into all of this then from the top, we're talking about Eyes Wide Shut, of course. And where do you want to begin, Kent? Do you want to talk about the movie or about Kubrick or about some of the, analyze the movie anyway? Basically, the floor is yours here. Where do you want to go with this?
Well, I'd like to begin by saying that most people who see this movie do not understand what they're looking at, and there's a reason for it. The Illuminati deal with symbolism that is hidden to the larger population, and they frequently talk about those who have eyes to see and ears to hear. And what that means is that the inside initiates are able to decode this symbolism and understand what they're looking at. So I applied my 27 years of research on this group of people and applied it to the film. And one thing I'd like to begin with is that Stanley Kubrick himself was a high-level mystery school initiate. So that explains how that symbolism got into that movie in the first place.
Interesting, and of course this posts a number of questions. Obviously, I guess here is, do you think that Kubrick was trying to reveal some of these secrets, or is there some other reason why constantly we are being confronted with this kind of symbolism, as you say?
My personal belief is that he was trying to reveal some of this symbolism to the larger population. And just like we saw with Mozart and his magic flute, which revealed inside secrets of the Freemasonic movement, Stanley Kubrick also had this revelation in his film Eyes Wide Shut, which basically saw him quickly die under mysterious circumstances, which occurred only 4 days after he turned in the final print of the film to Warner Brothers.
Well, and what was it? Was it a heart attack? Do we know that? What it was?
It was stated publicly as a heart attack. However, I've done research into this, and his wife was completely surprised by his death. He was not under any strain in terms of heart disease, and it was a shock to his family, friends, and professional coworkers.
Yeah. Was it, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, but was it you who wrote a paper on that was called How the Elite Creates Heart Attacks?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
That article was entitled How the Globalists Create Heart Attacks.
Ah, okay, yeah.
And that was published August 16th, 2005. My point at that time was there had been over 100 microbiologists over the past several years who had died under very unusual circumstances, and they all were known as heart attacks to the public in the public news media. And basically what I did is I went and I interviewed someone who worked in a heart telemetry unit, and I interviewed this nurse and asked her how could they create a heart attack, what type of chemicals would they use, what type of drugs would they use that would leave no sort of a trace afterwards.
Interesting. And so do you think that he was, taken out, so to speak?
Yes, I do. And the reason that I do think that this occurred was that there is some very unusual math that went along with his murder. And basically at that point, one second.
Sure.
Okay. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Cold. His date of death was March 7th, 1999. He turned in the final print of Eyes Wide Shut 4 days earlier on March 3rd, 1999. Now, if you go from the date he died, which was March 7th, 1999, and we go forward to the first day of the most famous film this man ever made, 2001: A Space Odyssey, we come up with the date, January 1st, 2001. The number of days between March 7th, 1999 and January 1st, 2001 were exactly 666 days.
Oops. Okay.
Now that is a coincidence that I'm not entirely sure is entirely coincidental.
Yeah, exactly.
Whenever you see these built-in numerology codes into specific events, for instance, all the incidents of the number 11, the September 11th attacks, it becomes less and less of a coincidence, each one of these that you dig up.
I always used to, as soon as I get into these kinds of topics with my guests, I always like to, ask the question if